I have another discussion that I came up with literally on the fly. But so you were talking about paper the Francis Ngannou and like the biggest stars in UFC. I want to talk about like the different categories of stars in the UFC.
The
Like,
first one is Conor McGregor. Like
yeah,
that's a category. He's the only one in this category.
I
That's a
think
guy who could sell 1 million no matter who he fights.
yeah,
Like
nobody has
every
any chance of
time,
doing that.
no one has a chance of being. The next tier is what I like to call like legendary, and I would put like maybe I think Masvidal maybe earned his way into that tier because he sold millions multiple times, or at least once.
Once, it was once, but so did
Did
Usman.
Madison Square Garden? Did he sell 1 million with Nate Diaz?
I don't, let's pull this up. Let's pull this up. Nate
But I
Diaz.
think that him and Nate Diaz are in the same conversation.
Yeah, but Nate Diaz isn't in the UFC anymore.
But I mean, what about him
Oh,
and
how many did
what about him?
you, Colby?
No, I don't think Colby's in that. In
No, no,
that,
no. That are you talking
him
about
and
like
Colby, him and Colby. How many did that sell?
that sold like 200,000,
That
400,000.
means his stock has dropped ever since that
Nobody
KO
cares about
loss.
him. Nobody cares about him anymore.
Yeah, so maybe he's not in that anymore. I mean, we're talking about the past. We can't really talk. I mean, what we'd be bringing up Ronda Rousey if we're talking about the past. So I
Yeah,
don't think
exactly.
is Nate Diaz even a
Not
huge
in the
star. I mean, how
UFC
much did he
anymore.
sell
He,
with Hamzat? How much did he sell on that card?
they haven't released it yet.
Okay, well then Nate Diaz is a bigger star than in the UFC's eyes than he really is in the real world because I don't really think he's that big of a star. I think honestly, I think Nate Diaz is in the same league as like I mean,
Chimaev's in the second tier, in my opinion.
okay, here's the second. Well, if the second tier is
Izzy
that, then I
too.
think that it's
Izzy.
that I think Izzy's in there. Izzy's a big, and like as big. Maybe he's not as hot as Chimaev, but I think he's as big of a star as Chimaev right now. Like I
Yeah.
think,
People
yeah,
know Izzy. People know Izzy like
they
outside
know
this.
Izzy. I would also put Chimaev in there as well. I'd put Diaz in there. Pretty much everyone knows Nate Diaz. And I guess I'd maybe Jorge Masvidal.
I yeah,
Not anymore.
you know who else I would put I would put Colby on there. I would.
I bet, like, for example, if I were to ask my brother if he knows Hamza Chimaev, Colby, Diaz, and Izzy, I think he knows Israel Adesanya. He'd call him like uh he'd call him like Stylebender or some shit. He knows
Usman.
Nate Diaz, most definitely knows Nate Diaz. But I don't think he knows Colby Covington. And I don't think he knows Hamza Chimaev even.
What about let me ask, what about Dustin Poirier or Michael
I
Chandler?
don't think. Oh, do I think they're? I think they're in the tier right below the other guys.
Okay.
I
So
think that I think that those guys are those guys are in that what so if Conor McGregor's in his own tier, A tier would be Izzy and those guys. I think they're in the B tier. I think they're like really high up there.
with
I think that a lot
Volkanovski.
of guys are in there. For example, I think Sean O'Malley's in that tier right now. I think he's in that tier now. I think he's
You know who's
at
in
this
the
point.
who's in that tier also? Paulo Costa.
No, no, I
Well,
don't think Paulo's.
I'm
I don't
telling
think
you,
he's. I
he's
think
gonna
amongst the
get.
hardcores he is. I don't think that Paulo Costa is bigger than Chandler.
I
I
think
don't think
he's
he's bigger
in
than
that. I
Poirier.
think he's in that tier now, though. I think he belongs
I
in there.
think he's in the tier of guys that are like right under them, bro. Like I think he's a big.
He's got more followers on Instagram than Colby Covington.
Okay, that's it. Well, Brazilian market as well. I guess. So I guess yeah, maybe Paulo.
Also, we forgot about Oliveira.
Oliveira. Oh yeah, Oliveira's got to be in the Izzy tier right now.
And then also, I think Makhachev's pretty high up also. Like,
Makhachev, I think he's
I think
I
he's
think
in the
he's not. I
Chandler
think he's
Poirier.
nowhere. Habib, bro, had like Habib is like 20 million followers, bro. Makhachev ain't.
Let's see how many followers Makhachev
Even
has.
Muslims like from Chechnya don't even care that much about Makhachev.
He's just not entertaining like Habib, like Instagram.
Yeah,
I want to just check his Instagram. Before he's got 4.2 million, so he's got more followers
Makhachev.
than Colby
Who?
Makhachev.
Damn, that's more followers than I thought.
Wait, let's see. I want to see how many followers Usman has.
Usman's got like 3.2.
So, so I Makhachev is up there then.
How
Yeah,
many followers does Usman have?
3.3.
That
Makhachev
ain't
is
that
4.1.
much.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, we forgot about Usman. He's definitely in that. He's in that A tier too.
yeah, yeah. But
I
so
think he's
I
as
feel
big of
like
this.
Makhachev has to be in that tier
Yeah,
then.
I think Makhachev. Well, but think about it like this: Makhachev versus Charles, sure, but Makhachev Izzy versus Jared Cannonier is up there. He's still Izzy. Makhachev versus anyone else is not a big fight. Makhachev's only big fight is Charles right now.
That is true.
He does not have a big fight like outside of that unless he's the champion.
Charles is 4.6. So Charles is yeah, Charles has to be in that A tier. So I think the A tier is Adesanya, Charles, Usman, Chimaev, Makhachev, not Makhachev. I'm not gonna have Makhachev on there. And yeah, I think that's the list. And I think the tier, the B tier, the tier below that is
B
I think
tier
that's
is like,
Makhachev,
yeah.
Poirier, Chandler. I think that's
I think
Paulo
that the C
Costa,
tier would be guys like Piotr,
Volkanovski.
Fury, Volk. I think Volk is now. I think he's B tier. I think he's as big as Poirier.
What
Right.
about Michael Chandler? No, 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 sorry. Max Holloway.
Oh,
Max
I think he's. I think he's B tier. I think he's where Volk and Poirier are. I think he's where those guys are.
Volk and Poirier. Okay. But I don't know if Volk belongs in that.
Bro, Volk now
Okay.
after I think he's the champ. Like he's always fighting
He's also
in the
number
pay
one
per
pay
view.
per view. That is true. He's the
Number one pound for
number one
pound.
pound for pounder. Yeah. What? But like, where would Francis Ngannou be? Like that. Like back
I
to like
think
what we were
Francis
talking about.
Ngannou is right where Volk is. I think he's as big of a star as Volk, if not smaller.
I feel like he may be
I
smaller.
think people would care more about Volk than Francis.
Yeah, exactly. Like but also, what about John Jones?
Oh,
John
John
Jones.
Jones is definitely A tier.
Yeah. So John Jones would be A tier.
Yeah.
He returned. What about Henry Cejudo? Where would he put Henry
Oh,
Cejudo?
I'd put Henry Cejudo with like, Corey Sandhagen and Piotr Jan.
You
I'd
wouldn't
put
put
him in
him
the C
in there?
tier. Yeah,
Really?
I'd put him in the C tier. I
B
don't even
tier.
care that much about Henry Cejudo.
What about TJ Dillashaw? He's the C tier.
I think it's C tier as well. TJ is a big name, but C tier is big names. Like we're not talking Mateusz Gamrot, who's like in the F tiers or whatever. Like these are like the okay. So C tier, a D tier fighter
Like a
would be someone
Dariush.
like
No, Dariush
Fiziev.
is like an
Would
F
be like someone like Fiziev. I think he's a D tier.
and an Gaethje.
Or I think Gagey is B tier. I think Gagey's proved
C
that he's
tier.
in.
He's not a B
Well,
tier.
I mean, he's everyone loves watching Gagey fight. The thing is, how I rank them is how interested are people in seeing them fight? I think that people are really interested in seeing Gagey fight. I think that people aren't that interested in seeing a RDA fight or some shit like that. I mean, RDA is D tier.